So welcome to the Orbital Can Station meeting of October, at least in a large part of the world. It will be Saturday 15th of October. We have a bi-weekly meeting. Everyone is welcome there. You can find all the details in the meeting schedule channel of our Nexus Aurora Discord server. My name is Astro Koen. I'm project lead for the whole of the Orbital Can Station project, and we have a lot of project leads for all of the sub-projects who are also here with us today. We have a busy schedule, so we'll start right away, and this recording is specifically meant for people who miss this meeting and not for public sharing on YouTube, so please do not do that because it is an unlisted video. So with that out of the way and people having said that it is okay for us to record this meeting in this manner, let's start with the meeting. Welcome all of you in this meeting. Thank you so much for being here again with so many of you. I would like to start, of course, by going through the agenda. Is there anyone who would like to add extra things to the agenda or change anything on this agenda before we continue? You can open your mic.
Is the agenda visible to other people?
The link I shared just now, I see like 4 or 5 people are in there, but the link I shared in meeting room text 1, my last message at 7:08, 8 past the whole hour, that is the Orbital Can meetings agenda that you can all take a look at. And I see a lot more people entering, so there you see the agenda. That's a good point, Orest. And also, so you guys know, this is also a place where all the notes are taken from previous talks that Orest did the last time as well. And this is also the place where we will write stuff for the next meeting, so the next agenda, in the upcoming 2 weeks. And if you yourself have any specific points that you want to be discussed, you can tell me, but you can also write it here in the agenda for the next meeting. And if there's anything you would like to add to this agenda, please tell us now. And otherwise we just continue with the agenda. That's fine as well. Okay, I'm going to assume it's okay. If there's anything you would like to add later, there's always the last point of the agenda, and that is something that we might have missed and you want to add anyway, and we'll go over there. So, to make it a bit more official, we have the approval of the prior meetings notes. So if there's anyone who has read that note, those notes below in that same document, and think there should be something that should be changed, please let us know now. And I would actually not even have a problem with you guys changing it yourself. But tell us about it, that would be nice. But if there's nothing you guys would like to change, I don't believe you will, but then we'll just continue with the agenda. We're going to go to point 4, and that is marketing, communication, and news. And I have some nice news to share, and I will also ask some other people to talk a bit at this point in the agenda. The first point of news is that we have done 2 podcasts that you have seen probably in the different channels that we have shared it with the announcements and the project news. One was with Total Space, which was really nice. That was specifically for the Orbital Can. I think some new members came specifically from listening to this podcast and seeing that on their YouTube channel. It was about a full hour, and 2 podcast hosts from the Total Space YouTube/podcast channel talked to me about how the whole Orbital Can project is moving along. You probably have seen it, but otherwise you can take a look at the announcements channel. Nexus Project News channel. I'll share a message link in the meeting room text 1, and you can take a look. You can still take a look at that video, which was pretty nice, I think. Let me actually take a look at how many people have actually watched it, because you never know that, to be honest. That might be interesting. Let's see. Well, 350 people now, which is pretty good for their videos, because usually they have fewer than 200, I think. So I think it's okay. And the other podcast was the Interplanetary podcast, which has a few thousand listeners, as I understood. And that is visible in the announcements channel, but I'll also copy that message link and put it in the meeting room text chat. Or as you could also put it in the notes if you like, but they are in the meeting room text chat right now. Both of those were really nice because in the Interplanetary podcast, Sean, Cameron, and I, as core, were invited to talk about Nexus Aurora as a project, which was really good. But we also talked a lot about the Orbital Can project specifically. And I feel that if you look at the Introduce Yourself page, in the last weeks, there has been a lot of extra people coming into our server, specifically because they have heard, for example, one of those two podcasts. And I think even most of the people have listened to the Interplanetary podcast who came newly into our server. And some of those guys are even in this meeting today, I feel. So it's really nice to have you guys here. And it's also good to see that marketing efforts in general and PR and communication has a real benefit to our server. And it attracts new people who are really interested in our project out of themselves, and they are intrinsically motivated to contribute, in this case, to the Orbital Can Station. So I would also like to take this opportunity to tell you guys that if we keep doing the nice things with the visualizations and going to podcasts and talking about the project also outside of our own Discord server, so also on Reddit and all of the social channels, that is really positive because it helps the project along a lot further. And all of us are here because we have read about Nexus Aurora somewhere, right? So I would like to encourage you to keep doing the great work that you're doing. And if you can increase the activity in also visualizing, which also helps these great projects that we're working on. And what I would also like to add is that if any one of you guys has any connections to any podcast or YouTube channel or whatever that is related at all to, well, what we are doing here with the Orbital Can Station, feel very free to just send me a PM and we can talk together on how to approach this. Or you can actually go to the link that I will post in the meeting room text chat right now. And that is a Google Docs with a Google spreadsheet, I should say, sorry, which has an overview, two tabs, and an overview of people that we could get in contact with, either for an expert consultation and a meeting like we had with Mr. Dunton yesterday. And what I would like to ask you guys is if you could help me fill in the missing information, because some people have said to me before that they have some contacts, but not all of that information is in this document yet. So, for example, Simon has added some information, but it is not complete at this time. Hyperphysics. Sean claims to know Tori Bruno, so that's nice. So we're going to talk to Tori Bruno of ULA, so that's nice. Sam Ross, Gary, Enrico. If you could help fill in your own information, that would be great. And what would also be great is if all the other people who are here right now and who maybe are a student or know people who are in the space industry and can help us with the Orbital Can project, just like Alex did by asking his own professor, Mr. Dunton, please contact me if you have questions about that, or so just send me a private message, or actually just write it down in this document. I'll put a link to this document as well in the About page. It's not there right now, but it will also be in this meeting's notes. I think Orest can also copy the link to the spreadsheet in the meeting notes, so you can find that. Okay, there's a lot more news. I'll try and keep it as short as possible. I don't know, Sean, are you at this time listening as well, or are you? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So that's great because there are two things that I would like to give you a chance to talk about, and that is first of all the Steve Dunton meeting and this unlisted video and how we could proceed with that, also in the future. And the other one is specifically about the CAD software that we are looking at. And could you maybe update the people who don't know all about that, what that process is like? Thank you.
right. So, well, there are two topics here. The first one is on the video that we had yesterday. In fact, on meeting room 1, if you give me a few minutes, I'm going to drop that video link here. I'll put it up in a second after I've had this conversation. It's a private video, meaning, and I think a lot of videos I'd like to do like that, including this one. So essentially they're private videos, only certain people with links can get them, so you can't really search them on YouTube, you can't access them unless you have the link. Now, the reason why we're doing that is so that we are free to talk and say what we need to say, do what we need to do here, without worrying about whatever could happen in the future to cause issues. These aren't high quality videos. They're not going to be good for the public to see anyway. No one's going to be interested. I'd rather want high quality videos on the next Aurora YouTube stream. So yeah, if anybody wants to come back to a video to see what we talked about or to remember something, that's the purpose of these videos. This video is also, this conversation we're having now is also being recorded, and I'll put that on YouTube as well. And yeah, anytime you want access to a video or not sure where a video is, just ask me, I'll get it to you. Sorry, what was it?
Yeah. What would maybe be also nice is that we have an overview of all these unlisted videos somewhere in the Orbital Can channel, in some document or spreadsheet, for instance, so we can more easily find it back instead of having to ask you, for instance. But we'll talk about that later. We'll make it happen.
I'll see how we do that. I'm not sure if I can give access to a playlist, or if I'll have to give access to individual videos. I honestly haven't had enough time to play with those features on YouTube yet. So when I figure that out, I'll be able to give better feedback on that. Because if I can just give access to a playlist, then it's one link which we can put on the about page or something.
Yeah, for sure. And otherwise, we'll just make a standard spreadsheet with the different videos that says what each video is about. It's both fine by me, whatever works. And the other question was about the software that we're looking at. Maybe you can update us on that.
Yes. So at the moment, we've got a license for 10 seats for Onshape. It's the full professional version of Onshape, which is quite a good CAD program. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles that the other software we're looking at the moment has, which is SolidWorks. But the nice thing about Onshape, and I'm really pro Onshape, is because of its extremely good collaborative and community features. We can work on a file together. We can share links, which gives you a model that you can look into 3D to anyone. And that's really cool. I mean, I'm really excited about the idea of dropping these links on freaking YouTube or Reddit or Twitter or anywhere, and have literally anybody, whether they're on cell phone or PC, be able to open and view these models. That will mean a lot for us. But also, the collaborative tools are really, really strong. It is, however, a little bit lacking in the modeling world. I believe the reason why it's lacking is mostly because they're a little bit behind. They will get there. They're catching up. They're still adding features. So the one option is we start with Onshape, or work with Onshape, and accept the fact that it's not full feature complete. The other one is SolidWorks, which is, if you know, it's essentially the industry standard for mechanical work and that kind of thing. And it's feature complete. It's really good. It's got everything. SolidWorks is ancient. The problem is that so I've had a meeting with them this week, and I'm going to have more meetings with them in this coming week. The problem with SolidWorks is that its collaborative features are lacking. So what happens is we will have a file that we're working on, and people will have to communicate about who's working with that file. So there's quite a bit of versioning control that we need to do. So we'll probably have to have someone that manages these files, manages versions. Two people can't work on a file at the same time, for example. And if one person is working on a file and somebody else opens the file and starts working on it without them knowing, you could have a clash and loss of data. They do have networking capability though. Now with the networking capability, so it's Onshape Network, so it's enterprise version, which they're also offering us, but they still have to come back with us on pricing. That allows control over this versioning, these different versions, so we can't overwrite each other's work and stuff like that. It may not work though, because the way they do this is they actually give you space on a server somewhere wherever their offices are, and that is region locked. So they'll work if, I mean, I'm in South Africa, so it'll work wonderfully for me, but it might break as soon as it crosses border, because they've got offices in each country in the world, and we're global. So they're coming back to me with that information. Will that work? Also, in terms of pricing, that's important. That's really important, because there are two things that are, for me, there are a couple of things that are really important with software. The first is obviously, can it do what we need it to do? And that's the technical stuff. But on the other side is, does it allow everybody to collaborate and work together? And can we afford the software sustainably? So a lot of OnShape, for example, is giving us a 3-month free trial for 10 people, which is fantastic. But after 3 months, we'll have to see what happens. SolidWorks, I'll have to see what they're offering. We do not have an unlimited budget, so we're going to need some grace from their side. But fortunately, both sides, OnShape and SolidWorks, seem excited to work with us. For these software companies, one of the most exciting things is to get people at a young age onto their platform before they enter serious business, because only later on do people pay for software. So they want to get us before we're making money. But we'll have to see if they're prepared to meet us halfway. So the final thing on this is, this coming week I've got another quick meeting with them, but we're trying to set up for SolidWorks, we're trying to set up a live presentation, and we can pull quite a few people into that meeting if you are interested, to see how SolidWorks works, and then we can ask them questions as well. But they need to get back to me on exactly when that's going to happen. So just have a look out. I'll send out a meeting when that happens, and then we can have a look. Koen, I think you're still muted.
Yeah, sorry about that. Now, thank you. Thank you for that update. That's an important one. I feel that we are now getting at a stage that working collaboratively as much as possible on 3D software starts to become important. I know I've been working in SketchUp, which is a really crappy software, but really, really great for conceptual work very, very quickly, because it doesn't have to be accurate. It's not about that. It's about showing what you think about. So I feel that it was great up to now for that sense. We really have to take the next step in regards of the software. It has to be now start to become the perfect sizing, and things have to fit together, and people have to be able to work on several parts. But then in the end, we have to have one model where all of these different three-dimensional elements fit together, and fit together well, so we can see what the problems really are. People are now working in all of their own software. So this is going to be... Yeah, go ahead.
Just to add one more thing is, I still have 3 seats left for OnShape that we're not using. And we're not currently utilizing it well. I'm not seeing OnShape models. I know Simon did some work on it, and he said he's battling a bit, because there is, as all software, it's a learning curve. In my experience, give it a week. It takes approximately a week to really get a feel for software, especially new software, for 2 reasons. One, if you're used to something else, you get frustrated at the stupid way in how they do this thing, opposed to what you're used to, which sometimes it's not stupid, it's just breaking old habits. And if you're new to CAD, it's going to be confusing generally to start this new endeavor, because you have to think in a certain way. So give it a week, but we still have 3 more seats. If I see more people are asking for licenses than what we have, I will remove some of the people existing on there if they're not using them. I'd rather want people to use it and give us a good feedback than somebody else not using it at the moment.
And then one detail that I would like to add as well is, before I give Orest a chance to say what he wants to say, is that we have a document. Let me find it. Sorry about that. I'll paste it in a second, but there is a document that shows the problems that we are facing, so we can talk about that with the Onshape team. So if we have any questions regarding the software during testing, you can write it down there. I'll put a link in the meeting room notes in a second. But Orest, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say, because I heard Sean say something about version control when it comes to SolidWorks. There's this great application. It's available across all systems or all operating systems. It is called it's called Source Tree, and it is kind of like GitHub Desktop. If for the people that know what that is, it's a version control application. It allows you to edit files on your own computer, on your own machine, without changing the files on the server. And then you can combine them into the master branch and push them to the server, and then that's where the file is updated. So then you are able to work on it by yourself, and you have a copy of all the files on your own computer. The issue is GitHub Desktop does not allow for these very big like project files, while something like Source Tree, it allows communication with servers around the world. And so that could be a very useful application for source control if we end up going with SolidWorks. But if we go with Onshape, then we wouldn't need that because Onshape is collaborative. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, there are definitely workarounds, and especially SolidWorks has been around forever, so there's pretty much, if you have any issue with SolidWorks, there will be a workaround. So there's a major advantage of that. But before we make a decision, I'd like us as a community to dive into these software packages and give it a solid review.
Okay, I have a question, Sean, because I'm completely not familiar with SolidWorks. And what is the chance to export from Onshape to SolidWorks in, let's say, in the manner that you design in Onshape, that you define materials, that you define the model itself? Would it be imported normally, or you have to remodel everything?
So I'm not that familiar with either of the two. I used to work on SolidWorks about 10 years ago or something when I was looking for a good 3D modeling package for 3D printing stuff. But what I understand is a lot of the Onshape and SolidWorks have quite an extensive ability to export files. But I'm not sure if you're going to keep a lot of the properties of those items when you export, which means that SolidWorks works with a lot of constraints, and so does Onshape. And I think a lot of those constraints will be lost, a lot of the details will be lost. Onshape has got really good elements where it version controls each item. So you can, each individual component that you work on, you can go back and look at it, preview its history. All of that will be lost when you export. In terms of, from what I can tell at the moment, and this I'll have to specifically try and look at this issue, especially when I get some feedback from SolidWorks guys. I'll have to look at what exactly carries over between the exports and imports. So I'm going to guess that if you move from Onshape to SolidWorks or vice versa, you're going to lose something. I can almost guarantee that.
You can ask Sam, for instance, because, and I think some other people, maybe even in this meeting, also have SolidWorks on their computer. I just shared in the meeting room text 1 a link to a model that we can use. So what would be cool is maybe to try and export that model, because it's really complex, to SolidWorks and just see if it works. Gregory is asking, do I understand correctly that Onshape is free for students? Well, it might be, but that is not the complete feature list, and all the collaborative tools that we feel are the main benefit of Onshape are not all usable when it is in the free version. There are a lot of downsides to the free version that we think are the actually biggest reasons to choose Onshape in the first place. So if we do Onshape, we would likely need a professional version to make use of all of that. Sean, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, so your response is correct. Basically, Onshape, if you go free version, the files are completely open to the public, which means anybody can take your file and modify it. But also um, you can't share, we can't collaborate on the same file. So you can work on a file as an island, and that individual file is then stored on the open server, which is shared to the whole world. But at the same time, the three of us or five or 10 people can't sit with the exact same file and modify it as time goes on. So Onshape has a free version because one of the big issues with especially new software is getting enough people on board so that you can get industrial cred, that people acknowledge your software. But it's not going to quite help us in an organizational setup. I see Alex says that he works with SolidWorks regularly, and Alex, you would then yourself and Sam, because he also works with SolidWorks, it will actually be a good idea to get an Onshape file and start exporting and importing things and seeing how that works. Guys, if you want to demo Onshape, just send me a personal message with your email address, and I'll send you a link or access to it.
Yes, so what I'm also going to do is in meeting room text 1, during the demonstration I created a screenshot of all the different types of exports that we can do now from the professional version of Onshape, which means that SolidWorks is actually, I think, honestly, Simon, it might be the best way to export, interestingly, because Onshape was actually sort of a response to SolidWorks by former people who worked at SolidWorks. So I feel that it might actually not be as bad as it might seem, but we have to try it out. Anyone who has SolidWorks, if you could try this out, just type a message in the chat or just do it there somewhere in the coming days or today and respond back at how, for example, the Onshape CAD file that Simon is also sharing, how that works in SolidWorks. Okay, and Danny is saying that he is working in Blender, and I think Danny is specifically working in the OCS visuals, the new project of Deck Engineer that he will talk about in a moment. And we might have like 2 minutes now before we go to the next subject to discuss if we are all okay with different programs being used for the visuals. I feel that it is almost impossible to, for example, do animations in Onshape or SolidWorks. But let me just ask Sean in this case what you feel about that, and if anyone else wants to chip in, let me know. But I guess stuff like Blender could be used when we export a certain version of the model, for instance.
Yeah, so Blender is probably one of the most amazing open source projects on the internet. I don't know of something even more amazing than that. But it's a surface modeler, which means that it only really concerns itself with the image that you see. It doesn't do design. You can't, and I've tried. You can't really design technical things. You will jump off a bridge. So Blender is really, really good. What's nice about Blender is it can import almost anything. Onshape and SolidWorks will export well into Blender without really losing anything. And then after that, whoever's working in Blender can then easily add materials and the works that Blender does. So for technical stuff, Blender's unfortunately out, but for graphics, for renders and imagery and stuff, it is the way to go when it comes to community stuff. They've even got collaborative features now where multiple people can work on the same Blender file at the same time. It's really amazing, but it's not for technical work, unfortunately.
Just want to chime in just quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
So like I guess my workflow that I had in mind was like we do the design work, the technical work using one of these CAD softwares using Onshape or SolidWorks, and then we export that in like an OBJ file to like whoever wants to do the animation. And I've done this with 3D Daniel, I believe his name, and it works fine.
Yeah, the thing is that we should set milestones for the development of the technical stuff, and then we export that, but everyone in the technical department knows that if you do any changes afterwards, the visuals team cannot easily change that in their models, just so you know. It's going to be pretty hard to change those. So yeah, that's just a requirement that is important to know, but it's also important that we give the team, we'll talk about it in more detail, the tech engineer in a moment, but we give the visuals team enough time to create nice animations and visualizations because it takes a lot of time. So even if that means that that this animation is not perfectly describing our model, and there are always going to be mistakes because the people who do the visualization don't know all the technical details either. So we should be fine with that. If it is not a very huge mistake, that is just the way it is. It is about the visuals in general, and if the main image is correct and the main idea is fitting, then that is that. For now, we have to work like that, and who knows what happens in the future. But for now, I think it would be great if all the new people who have joined OCS Visuals, if they can keep on working and doing the nice rendering that they're doing. Thanks for that. I'm going to go to the next part of the meeting so we don't make it too long. And that is one specific question to all of you, and that is in the library. I'll paste a link to the library in the meeting room text. It's also on the About page, as most of you will know. On that project library, I added a note at the top, and it says, do not use Lumin PDF, please. Someone has posted a lot of notes, which is really, really great. A lot of sources in this document. I don't remember who it was. I hope it's one of you guys, and otherwise we'll have to find out. And especially if you go to health and biology and lower, that starts to become a problem because all of those documents are not easy to open. You have to create an account, and 9 out of 10 that I've tried are not even able to be opened after you have created that account to do this. This is not the way that we work, open source normally, but go ahead, Orest, you want to say something?
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I am the reason why this issue has occurred. I was using Lumen PDF because if you ever open a PDF in Google Drive, it does not change the link, and therefore it would send you to the same Google Drive folder. Only later did I realize that whenever I make a Lumen PDF file, if I want to share it or have anybody else give anybody else access to it, I have to work the settings of the file so that it uploads it to their servers. I have not gotten to that, but if I get to that, if I'm allowed to get to that and do it for each one of them, everybody will have access to the files and it will be a million times easier to find them. That's the only reason why that happened, and I just have not gotten to actually giving everybody access to them. But some of the files, especially the ones at the top, if you click on them, as long as you have an account, as long as you have a Google account, you don't even need to have a Lumen PDF account, but just a Google account, you can access the file perfectly fine. So it's just a matter of setting the sharing settings, and I didn't get to that because I didn't know about it just yet. But
one
once
of
I
the
figured it out, I
problems
started working on it.
because I know that it is meant well, but one of the problems is, one example, Mars Done Right, he doesn't even want to give his real name, but he contributes a lot to the project. But he for sure has no Gmail account. Who is here? MDR. And he's not going to make one just to view these sources. So that is why we created completely open on Google Drive. And even though it might not be perfect, but Lumen PDF has other difficulties, I would definitely kindly ask you to download the PDFs or directly link to a website that has that PDF. That's fine as well, as long as you can find it without any hassle. You don't have to log in, you don't have to create an account, you don't have to search, you don't have to... I had to actually disable all my cookies, otherwise I couldn't even log in with Gmail. Well, all of those kinds of issues we should not have. So we're not going to use...
understandable, that's my fault.
Yeah, no worries. I'm very happy that you're in the meeting, so I was wondering, oh shit, who did this? Because then I cannot know how we can finally get... Because there's some really great links in there, and I really wanted to use them, and I could not. So if you could do that somewhere in the next week, that would be great.
I'll take the Lumen PDF links out, and I think in the library, what we can do is we can make folders for each one, or I don't know. We'll figure this out somehow. But
There's one
we need to.
folder, and that has all the PDFs that are like actually downloaded PDFs, but they're in our storage, and then you can link to that file specifically. It should work.
We can't link to that file specifically. We can link to the library folder. That's the issue that I was coming about. So every
Okay.
time that you open a PDF, the link doesn't change. It just opens in the screen. That's it.
Okay,
And
so
that's why I
then
started using Lumen.
I understand that. Then the question would be, we have now a documentation folder. In there, we have to make all separate folders with each of them their own PDF in that case. So then you can link to that folder, I guess, right? Okay. If you could do that.
I'll start doing that. I'll start that after this meeting.
Thank you so much. And if you could look at all the other Google Drive links, if they are correct, that would be great. Because let me just also talk to you guys that I really, really appreciate all you guys working so hard and adding really, really great sources to this document. I was really hoping that you guys would do that a few months or a month ago when we started this, but the fact that there are already dozens of really, really great sources and that we have saved them this way. I think Sean originally, 3 or 4 months ago, did this in the Beyond Earth Architecture server. He created this channel with library, and I think it was a great idea. And the fact that all of you guys are using it so much is really great. And if you ever see, and then we stop about this, but if you ever see someone sharing a great source and a PDF or site or whatever, make sure that you ask that person, is it already in the library? I try to do that automatically, but otherwise, if it's only on Discord, it gets lost. Don't forget about that. And that would be a waste because we have to write some papers and we have to have those sources. Okay, is there anyone who would like to ask anything about this or say something about this before we go to the next topic? Otherwise, we'll just go to the next topic. Yeah, thank you. We're going to go to point 5 in the agenda out of 7, so we're doing okay, I think, in time as well. And that is the IAC roadmap. I'm going to hand it over to, I think, Simon first, then Marsden Wright, and afterwards I'll talk about the architecture part because we have to do 3 one-minute movies. And I think after the 3 of us have talked, Deck Engineer can also explain how we can visualize all of these things. But I think, Simon, go ahead and explain what your thoughts on that are.
In fact, I believe because the 1-minute video is optional, I don't know if visual guys can help with my storyboard, because I see that they focus on architecture. Okay, it's okay. I don't know if it will be ready, because myself I cannot do that. I can make just a simple animated a little bit PowerPoint presentation.
But we're gonna make it happen. We're gonna make 3 of them. So can you just explain what your ideal video would be, and people understand what the progress could be?
Okay, I have in fact in visuals I have put a storyboard, and this ideal video you can see it on your own eyes. I don't know if do you need me to present that?
No, I was just thinking very shortly what that story would be if you know.
Story is simple. You have some stations, then they are connecting, and then I want to underline that this is not only the Can station. So there are many different types of stations, and then they are connected via additional arm, which is connected to USS, and it is connecting smoothly. And then you have the UBM, which is going. There will be going some maybe animated pipes that you can, after connection, you have animated pipes, and then finally you have main features, main elements listed, and finally Nexus Aurora invitation to Dubai.
That is great. That's actually a lot for 1 minute.
No, I know, but I have written every second of it, so you can see it. I'll share my screen.
Yeah. You can share the link to the document in the meeting room text one as well.
I would love to, but where is it? It's somewhere here. You see this one. So you have the timeline and everything is planned. I believe it's enough. And I think each video needs to have the same visual elements. Like you have to have a logotype of Nexus Aurora. You have to have like 4 to 5 seconds of Nexus Aurora invitation to Dubai as a finalizing
Yeah.
video, and possibly a starting video should be also some kind of Nexus Aurora IAC
Yeah.
front page, just for a
Yeah.
few seconds. It
Yeah,
can fade out, fade in, but it should be the same element for all three animations.
Yeah, it's a good thing that the deck engineer is here. He's coordinating the whole effort for the 3 1-minute movies and in a few months also the longer movies, which will take a lot of time. I would also say that it would be great if we would have even a very ugly version of the animation first. And I saw that I think it was Billy Wayne, I'm not 100% sure, he's here as well, who shared a very quick, and he called it a very ugly animation, but I think it was nice already, but it, of course, it's going to be better. And the fact that you guys are sort of showing your progress in the visuals, that is really, really great. But let's just talk now for a second to Marston Wright, what his plans are, and afterwards I'll talk about architecture and give a deck engineer a chance to talk about visuals as a whole.
If I may, Ken,
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I would like to after that I would like to have a discussion. What is the because up to 30 of June you need to declare, and is what is the declaration?
A declaration of that we are going to go, you mean?
Yeah, confirm your online attendance. It's 18th of June. By confirming the commit to deliver the requested materials, and you need to. It's 30th of June. You need to upload the light talk.
Yeah, but that is 6 weeks from now. But we'll talk about that in this agenda point in a few minutes. First, MDR, can you explain what your ideas for the 1-minute video are?
Oh, I had an idea, and while I'd like more added, basically it was showing someone laying down on a bed with something that shows gravity's working, dropping a ball, something to show gravity working, and then the camera pulling out, so you see further and further away that they've actually got quite a bit of space. Then the camera pulls through a peephole, and then everything as far as the camera is concerned, except for the human being, is static. Then the camera pulls way, way, way back, but it rotates at the same speed as large, so you still see the image static. Then as you pan up, you see that the ship is moving. This is like inside the Orbital Can or inside the Starship. So then you slow the rotation of the camera, so it then matches the spaceship, and you see the large cans rotating around, and then you pull it out through the side of the can. So basically you can see the can and the spaceship, and you see it heading towards Mars. Unfortunately, getting the graphics to do that mightn't be so easy, because it's easier to describe than it is to generate. And one of the things that we've noticed over the last couple of days is there is a rotational gravity experiment in Brandis, is it? Brandis, Brandis University, and a couple of seconds of showing that one actually rotating from the outside, because it is a real world piece of equipment rotating at about 12 RPM, which is our speed. And while you can see it rotate, it isn't that fast. Now, obviously, if you go inside and you don't see the rotation, it just looks like a room.
Okay.
I hadn't decided if that is going to be added, and then of course this is what Nexus Aurora is doing. These are the things that it can be used in, and then 60 seconds times out, and we have a sigh of relief.
Yeah. Okay. Then I'll. Who's that?
Martin, right? Can the animation start as a normal hotel capsule? So you
Well,
you
that's
not
exactly the
understand
point.
you are on Earth on the station.
Well, the whole idea was that you get to see this person. The more attractive, the better. Doing stuff with gravity, enjoying themselves. Looks like they're asleep, or not look like they're asleep. Looks like they're at rest, or you can see in the corner a VR set or their telephone and USB power port and stuff. So you get to see some of the VIP type of facilities available in the pod, and then you slowly, as you pull out, you get to see the structures, and then where it is. That was the intent. I mean, I'd love other people to help adding.
Yeah. Can you share the link to that maybe in the meeting room text chat so people can take a look at that? And Simon, the things that you have now drawn, did you also put that in a document that is in Google Drive as well, or not yet?
I put it just on. I just download the two pictures and I just put them. Okay.
Yeah, if you could write it down as in the Google Doc, there should be a Google Doc for the movies, so the people like Deck Engineer can actually use that, and don't have to decipher your writing, for instance, so then people don't make mistakes. For instance, that would be great.
Thank you for this.
Okay. I'll finish up. I have not written down the full script at this time. I see a lot of people are working at this time at the standard large can stations to get some basic idea on how to render it in space. I honestly have not taken the time to do that yet. I have some ideas that I've shown you in a picture, which shows the different elements that are important for the success of the Orbital Can, and that includes manufacture, launch, deployment, the fact that it's a single launch station, and then showing how a station grows into a larger station, and it could include also the UBM and the large, just very simply designed, so people can at least know about these elements, and if they see this 1 minute video, afterwards they might see the UBM video, and after that they might see the large video, then they understand the whole thing better. But let's keep it at that for now. I'm going to give Deck Engineer a chance to maybe just talk already, maybe even about the next point in the agenda, which is point 6, the project status update, which I think we should start now with the visuals in that case. Would you be able to tell us how you're doing, Deck Engineer?
Yeah, sure. So I'll just quickly describe the Google Drive first, actually, and like how I at least envision how that's gonna work. So I just made some folders, which one of them is the IC contents, because that's one of the, I guess, the more short-term tasks that we have to do. I also have CAD models and 3D assets. So I'm not too sure if they're going to be too different between these two folders, but my idea for the workflow is that all the people who are designing these technical models, once they are happy with what they want to be in the visuals, they upload it to the CAD models folder. And within those, we can like start to build, I guess, like a small library of what the animators can use. And so they can just grab those models and they don't have to, use their time creating CAD models, and they can use it more productively in animating the actual stuff. And yeah, with that, the current outlook for the visual projects is that it would be ideal to get like a quick first draft, and like we all know that it doesn't have to be pretty. We just kind of want to see the general, I guess, direction of each video, and then after we get this 1 minute video, which well, it doesn't have to be, I guess, put together, but as long as we have the different clips, we can start to discuss, okay, how are we gonna put it all together? So maybe in a week or two, we can have I'll probably ask to set up a meeting so we can get the project leads for each of these projects talking with the respective people who are animating the videos. And so we can align both parties. And then from there, we have about a month to work on the final video. And yeah, and within that month, we just keep updating each other, and hopefully it should be smooth from
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
that sounds great. Sounds a well thought out plan. That sounds smart to me, at least. What I have a question about is, so we have every 2 weeks we have the Orbital Can meeting that we are in right now. In 2 weeks there will be the next one. Is it maybe an idea to have at the other week a meeting that Marsden Wright, Simon, and I at least will meet with you guys? So every 2 weeks
that'd be
there
nice.
is an update. Is that good for you?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, actually. Yeah.
So maybe like a week from now. So it's like an alternating week. So you can also use
Yep.
that information for a week, and then let's say in 2 weeks you can show the first version in the Orbital Can Station general meeting, and people can just also give some ideas on how to even further improve that. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. I think that's a good idea. Also, I just want to add on, because we also have the 10-minute video to do, I was thinking like, if everyone or whoever is thinking and making their storyboards, if we can like recycle some of that animation for the 10-minute video, that would be quite nice as well. And or for the presentation.
Yeah, I think that should be possible. What I also do think, though, is that probably in the next months and after the 1 minute video is released, there will be a lot of changes still. We see that a lot of times.
Yeah.
So I would say you can assume that a lot of work has to be redone, but the ideas themselves and maybe the way of animating, exporting, and rendering can remain similar. You just input a different, a different model, maybe at least a slightly different model. I expect. But we'll talk about that maybe next week. Deck Engineer, before I go to the next subject, thank you. But could you, in the maybe coming days, create or ask in the OCS Visuals channel when next weekend, for instance, people could meet, then MDR, Simon, and me can also be there. And just for your information, Marsden Wright is in Singapore time zone. So
I'm in Thailand time zone as well.
Okay. So that's good. So it's pretty late for you now. So that's great. Okay, then it will be all right. Okay, thanks.
I just want to, if I may, just add one more thing.
Yeah, sure.
When everyone that is working on the visuals is done, if they can, even if they don't think it's personally good, but if they could just upload stuff to, like, I'll make a folder saying like just completed either images or videos, just so that we can use it possibly for marketing or whatever, that would be really appreciated.
Yes, and if you guys are feeling like, oh, this is not good enough, I don't want my name attached to it, that's also not a problem. Because sometimes, and I also have exactly the same thing myself, I must be honest about that. I always think like, oh, this is really, really a crap model. But if Sean and other people from marketing see a very simple SketchUp movie that I just made in a few minutes, then they say, oh, this is great because people really like it, and I'm just looking at it and I think like, this is the ugliest movie I've ever made. But so I know the feeling. But don't be afraid. And if you are still feeling like, okay, I don't want my name attached to this video like this, then we will send it out as a Nexus Aurora thing without saying exactly who made it. That's a possibility as well. So for sure, if it's just like a test rendering even, and a lot of things are still wrong, please do put it in the folder that Deck Engineer will provide you with. And if you have any technical difficulties in adding information or visuals to one of those Google Drive folders, like one of you guys had in the past, send Sean or me a message and we will grant you access to that Google Drive folder and visuals. And Sean, maybe it's a good idea to give Deck Engineer also the opportunity to do this for the visuals folder. Is that a possibility or not, Sean?
Of course, it's a possibility.
I can edit.
He needs to send me a PM though. Okay,
I think I can edit,
can
add
you edit?
folders already in the
I think
folders.
I
Yeah,
think I've added you already. So I
yeah,
get,
yeah, you have.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
but I
you should
meant,
try.
Sean, if Deck Engineer can also help other people get access to folders that they need. That's what I meant. Can he already do that?
I'm not sure actually. He should be able to.
Okay, so Deck Engineer, if you can't send Sean then another message, because I think as a project lead you should be able to help out people in your project as well. It
Sure.
doesn't have to
Yeah,
go through Sean and me all the time. So just
sounds
try
good.
it out, and if it doesn't work, we will help you out. Okay?
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, quick question, Deck Engineer. Do you need any assistance in choosing the models? Because Sean has many models, I have many models. Do you
I
know?
think that would be a question for the people responsible to animate, because they will be using your assets basically.
Okay, so they know
Yeah.
that they are 3D assets and they are familiar with all these division
Yeah,
screen.
I basically, if you guys can just provide like OBJ files, so export it as an OBJ or something that can work with render, it would be good for them.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. I will do that as well for the architecture, even though also that is not perfect, but it's good enough for now. And I'll do that for the large and for the general architecture from SketchUp. If anyone else has a better model, I think maybe Sean has a better Rhino model. I don't know. That's also fine. But
I've
you'll hear
been
about that. For now, at least Simon and I will. Go ahead, Sean. Yeah.
so I haven't updated any of my models in the last 2 weeks. So I've got, but for me to update the models fairly quick. The only thing is as soon as I get back to having time to work on these models, I'm going to start working on Onshape exclusively. So it's going to slow me down a lot. But so we'll
Yeah,
see how that
don't
goes.
worry about it. I'll just share the basic SketchUp models. I've created a new version with the most up to date and the 3 UBM, which I will talk about in a minute, instead of the 5 and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So I'll make sure I'll contact Deck Engineer and make sure that those OBJs are available, and Simon can do the same. But I'll do it for the architecture and the large, since I made those models. And Simon is working on the UBM specifically, and also on, I think, in a sense, the Eclipse, the ECLSS, the piping a bit, right?
That's good. Yeah, I actually made the full large, I think, model on Onshape already and exported it as an OBJ. But yeah, and just a note, like this, I believe this 1 minute video is more to attract people, so we don't have to be too cautious about the technical aspects, and we can worry about that for the 10-minute video or presentation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's important that the basic idea comes across. So a person
Yeah.
gets in, he moves in a pod, the pod moves down, and both rings start rotating at the same speed, right? And that is the main thing that you need to show in that 1 minute video. I think actually what I heard now from Simon and Mars Done Right, I hope it is possible in a 1 minute video, but I also have to tell you both, MDR and Simon, you're asking a lot from the animation team, so I think that it might be too much to ask for, especially stuff like going to Mars and all of that. It's really great. It might work, but if it doesn't work right now, we can make it work in the 10-minute video.
I want to say one thing. The
Yeah,
Deck
go ahead.
Engineer, we do not need the full animation constant
Yeah.
because we can glue it together with
Yeah.
small quick.
Yeah.
So if you have something like problems with that, just don't bother. We can just make a normal movie editing.
Yeah, I think that's what we'll discuss in the meeting that we'll have about fine-tuning these things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's for next week. If you can tag specifically Simon, MDR, and me, then we can also respond to the when we can be at that meeting.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to the next. Let me just end with one small thing before we go to economics, which is for Sean, and that is that actually a question to Sean as well, and that has to do with the visual style of Nexus Aurora as a whole. Since I shared some messages about that in the marketing team as well, that you probably have read. We have talked about this a few times ago, half a year ago, 3 months ago, and we always said like, oh, we'll do it. It's really necessary, but not right now. What do you feel, Sean, is an appropriate time frame to get to that next level of our visual language? And maybe have a new logo and stuff like that. What do you feel about that?
So I like the idea of a new logo. Well,
And can you open your mic? Those are my two questions. Yeah.
gets me every time. So I like the idea of a new logo. I think, but I don't want to drift too far away from it yet. The problem is we're at that. Well, there's an advantage. So we're working on developing an identity as an organization. We're only about 1,900 to 1,000 people strong, where about 100 of us are really active. And the important thing is our identity is actually our name, not our logo. People don't really know, or I mean, they've seen our logo, but that's not really the strength there. Our strength is in the name. People understand the name Nexus Aurora better than they know our logo. Unlike many companies, Tesla, if somebody flashes it in half a second, you can identify it. Somebody flashes the Nexus Aurora logo and they won't have a clue, even though they've seen 100 of our tweets. So it's a good idea to rebrand. I think we can do this early. Companies do this all the time. What I suggest though is maybe have this as an open competition and let it run for about a month. So quite a long period of time. So let us sit with it because we want people to discuss it. So as this competition goes, let people throw ideas down and we discuss it. There are certain rules that make logos work and certain things that make logos fail. But one of the things, for example, if you can't identify your logo in a 16-bit icon, it's not a good logo. And that's one of our failures of our logo at the moment. It's got too much detail. Little things like that. The point is, it's not a bad idea to redesign our logo. That said, it's not a critical point yet. Quite honestly, if you just wrote the word next to Aurora, that as a logo, that works because that's got identity, which is really what you want.
It is critical, Sean, because the time for submittal of the Dubai light talk is also quite a month. So to fine tune everything, and you
6
have
weeks, yeah.
6 weeks.
yeah, much time.
Okay. Well, that's maybe a good deadline. So let me put something together, and we host this as a competition. I think this will be quite nice for the 3D guys. And what we can also do is, in terms of that, we don't design just a logo. We design a bit of an identity. So normally, when you go to a marketing company and you're asking for, you don't ask for a logo. You ask for identity. And that includes things like what is your text that you use with this logo? How does this logo work in multiple formats?
Brand.
So
Brand.
yeah, it's branding.
Branding.
So we can open that as competition. Give me a little bit of time to put this whole thing together so that there are rules as such, but also so that everybody is designing the same thing or solving the same problem.
And lastly, it might actually be great that, of course, we are promoting this in our community, and I'm gonna guess that only people from our community really know what they're talking about. But I would say let's do it publicly, because then people will want to join our server to understand it better, to also create a visual identity.
I always
Can
do
we do
these
that?
things. I'd love to do it publicly. I'm running the marketing, or very much part of the marketing, so it's absolutely going to be a public thing.
Okay, so let's make sure that people from marketing, and I will join there as well, and you, let's say within a week we'll have the guidelines for the competition ready,
Yeah.
and then within a month after that we'll have, or maybe 3 weeks after that or whatever, we'll have the final designs ready, and people have time to design as well. I think that's good. Okay, that's just a detail that might also be important for the people from visual, from OCS Visuals, because yeah. As I think Simon also said, it's important to get like a strong visual identity, so we can have a similar language, a visual language to, so that we are recognizable. So as an example, if you look at What About It, I think it's the ugliest design ever, I must honestly say, but it's really recognizable, and that is important. So let's find a way to do that. Sean and the marketing team and I will also help, will work on that. So that's coming, and within a month or so we'll have a new, improved, hopefully, identity. Thank you. We're going to go to the next part, and that is economics and business models. Is there any update on that specifically, Sean?
No, not since the last work I've done. Um, just to give people an idea of where I ended up last time, and it's just an assessment I made, is with the Orbital Can. And this is critical in terms of designing it down at the level where we are now. Almost it influences the nuts and bolts. The cheapest I could get a ticket price for a tourist to get onto the Orbital Can was about I'm going off memory now, was about $64,000. That's insanely cheap. Now, the way to do that, and the only way to do that, is if we can say, and this is, you can call it optimistic or pessimistic, but this is somewhere ballpark of what people are talking about. If you can fit 200 people in a starship and fly all 200 of them up onto an orbital can, now that means an orbital station needs to accommodate at least 200 people, so maybe realistically more closer to 200 to 300 people. And it means that the smallest station that we should see as a economical model to really drop the prices is the biggest station. So look at 20, 30 module big station. That's actually where we talk about, if we talk about, really space tourism. Because there are 10 times more, no, I'm lying, there are hundreds of times more people that can afford a ticket at $64,000 than there are people that can afford it at $640,000. Right? It's thousands of times more people that can afford that. It's a massive difference in price. So the orbital can's economics is not dependent on the cost of the station itself is important, but the ticket price to get up there is most important. This will never work if people are flying up with a Dragon capsule, for example. The ticket of a Dragon capsule is going to be about 20 million at the lowest ever. So at 20 million per seat, it doesn't matter what the orbital can station costs, because your money is going to be thrown into an orbital can, into the ticket price getting there and back. So just consider that. That's really the most important thing. The other thing to think about is, I do not imagine a orbital station that consists purely of tourists. There's a couple of things. The cost to run the station, obviously, it's the construction cost. It's cost to get the people there, but it's also a maintenance cost to keep the thing running. So say, for example, you've got a science lab or a construction business, like so they're building something, fiber optics or whatever in space. If they don't send people often, say they send people up once every 6 months, because the ticket price really comes down to launch costs. So the company will want to save money, so they'll send people as infrequently as possible to save money. Now that means, say they're sending people up every 6 months, your life support becomes more complex, because now you need life support that can handle 6 months. So there you add in costs. If you can reduce your flight, like the frequency of flights, to about a month, which means now you're including tourism, it means that life support can be simpler, because your life support is, you can essentially just have carbon dioxide scrubbers, opposed to having these complicated systems that convert carbon dioxide into methane or whatever other. There's a couple other processes as well. So these are different models, and all it really comes down to is, I think we should really move away from the idea that a small station of 6 or so is, we have to start there, but inherently we must make sure that our designs can accommodate a big station, because honestly, the economics leans that way very, very strongly.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for the update. I'll tie in with that because I think I'm next in the agenda for the architecture. So Simon will also talk about that for the universal berthing mechanism, which is the main complexity in adding many of those cans together, structurally, but also in terms of power, radiator fluids and stuff like that. And we have about 5 or 6 cans that we can accommodate at one sort of choke point. So if there is maybe 6 cans in a row, and only the end can has radiators and solar panels, then the first can that is maybe in the middle of the station and is not near those solar and radiator panels can still be provided with power and cooling in that case. So that's at this moment that seems to be the optimum, and I feel that this should be okay. I think we can make that work. It limits us on the one hand, but on the other hand, if we have to increase that, it makes a lot of extra costs and complexity that we also don't want. So we just have to make sure that our design for our larger stations, our multi-can stations, accommodate for this, this design constraint in a sense. Let me just shortly update you guys on the basics of the changes that have been made in the architecture in general. We have decided that instead of 5 universal berthing mechanisms per end cap, so the top has 5 and the bottom had 5, we have changed that back to only 3 UBMs directly in line. And the reason for this is that we have run into a lot of trouble designing with 5 UBM, which Simon is laughing about because he was telling us that for 2 months straight, I think. But we wanted to try it anyway as a sort of a maximum case, like could we handle 5 of them? In theory, we can, but we see so many disadvantages that we think it is better to have 3 of them, and also to provide in each end cap more room or volume for the Eclipse systems, for the life support system, so for instance. So that's one thing to know. They're all in a row, which you have seen in probably some of the images. I'll share some in the meeting room chat after I'm done talking. Then I would like to say that as part of architecture, we actually have like maybe different groups working together on, for example, engineering and structural engineering, which needs a lot of work. So if you know anyone who has a lot of knowledge about structural or material science, please refer them to us or to me directly. It's fine because we need those people. Then we have people who started working on the interior design. A few weeks ago, I sent a message to someone who made a really nice Starship interior design. And he's actually, I think, an architect himself. And I just sent him a direct message on Twitter. I'm still like, okay, we're working on this. Come take a look maybe. And then like a week later, he showed up. And he's now, his name is Design Freedom. And he has created some really nice images. He has saved them also on the Google Drive. I'm going to find them in a second for you guys. I'll share the PDF because I think it's nice to see. And I created a folder 06 interior design, which has some of those documents. I'm going to share a PDF for now, so you guys can take a look at that.
Having
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Simon. You're breaking up.
It is already having a passages inside the decks. Please notice that. It's already designed for the communication.
Yeah. That's important, but he will be working on that this week as well. At this moment, we'll all make it as part, all of it is part of architecture. If this group becomes larger, and I feel in the future it will be because interior starts to become a more important part as well, we might create a new channel for that, but we'll wait as long as we possibly can until that it's too complex to have it all in one architecture channel. But I just wanted to tell you guys, look at that PDF and you see some really nice ideas, I think at least, that Design Freedom, which is the user, created. Just so you know that that is happening on the server as well. And then lastly, let me share you one more set of images. And that is difficult for me to find. Give me 1 second. It has to do with the exterior hull, but I don't know exactly where I left that image. Doesn't matter. We need, we could really use some help with the exterior shell of the whole orbital can. I'll try to find it after this. And what is also maybe interesting to note, and that is the last thing that I will say about this for now, is the fact that we have found, I think I have found a way to work with complex additions of stations. So if you look at at the meeting room chat. I'll just finish this sentence and then you can talk, Marsden, right? You'll see an image, and that image shows you the way that you could even create, connect 4 elements very closely together. 4 modules, I should say. So firstly, we are thinking, let's say in column number 1, you have 3 of them and then you add 1 more. That is impossible because the UBM, the berthing ports, are not not parallel to each other. They're perpendicular to each other, and that's impossible to manage because there's not enough room for that. I'm gonna have to shut down the the baby for a second. Sorry, guys. And then you see on the right side, you see another option, a topology that could also work. And the basic idea is that you actually join 2 cans, or even more, 2 parts of a station together perpendicular, and that then you can actually connect them together. At least I think so. But Marston, right? Go ahead. What do you want to say?
Sorry, I was trying to mention for the commercial stuff whether we actually have an entire can for some industrial process. So they just bring up material and then they take product down. Something like maybe amorphous silicon or something that can only be made in space.
Yeah,
as
so
another commercial approach.
yeah, I think if you look at the main Orbital Can document, there is a complete chapter based on all the possible use cases and manufacturing and a lot of different options, like 13 or 14 are mentioned there. And if you feel that the one that you're talking about right now is not really exactly the same as the ones that are mentioned right there, you can add yours. So at this time, people can draw their inspiration from there.
I was just thinking from a commercial point of view, you'll get another like sponsor, a company sponsor rather than individual people. The second point was of the one that you're talking now about architecture. It would be really nice if someone could internal the pod, because that's an architectural as well.
You're breaking up with me. Do you guys all hear him correctly or not? Is it me?
I heard something along the lines of internalizing the pod or interior design of the
Yes.
pod.
Architecture for the pod.
Okay,
Because
interior design in that case, you mean, right?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'll shut up now.
No, that's great. I think it's your aircon it sort of interferes with your mic a little bit, but I think we understand completely what you're saying right now. Thank you also, Orst, for that. Yeah, that might actually be interesting, that we can actually ask the people from visuals to actually think with us about that interior. So what would it look like? Do you have a screen? Do you have some kind of comfort? So I feel that maybe the meeting that we can have next week, Marston, right, with Simon, you, me, and of course deck engineer and the people from OCS Visuals who are working on the animations, we should specifically talk about that. And in the meantime, maybe some people who are working on large, we can ask that specifically on the Visuals channel to deck engineer and all the other people there. We can have a discussion with them about this topic, if that's okay with you. Okay, we're going to go to the next. Is there anyone who would like to ask anything else about architecture, for instance? Go ahead, Horst.
I would like to ask, do we have any design specifications for the can yet, in case if I want to work on exterior design models, or do we have any measurements or general ideas, or how long, how wide, how big, you know? Is there any list that we have with like ballpark measurements?
They're pretty exact, actually. I can share a 3D model, but you want to have actually renders with the dimensions in there, or do you want the 3D model itself? Because I can give you both.
As long as I get the dimensions, because I have Blender open on my third screen right now, and I can just start putting stuff in there as soon as I get them.
And you're looking at the architecture in general, right?
Most in particular the exterior design, but I can also work on interior if necessary.
I'll in a few minutes send a link in the meeting room text chat that you can take a look at. But in general, if you go to the Google Drive project Orbital Can Station, you see For example, in this case, you're talking about architecture. You go to architecture, and in there you see different people making all of these 3D models. Um, you could take my model out of there, but I can also export it for you to an OBJ, for instance. But let's talk about that after the meeting as well. Great that you're going to work on it.
That's the only thing. I don't have none of the file types that are always exported are available in Blender without some weird imports. Like there's these special import packages, but I haven't figured my way around them. But
Yeah, so let me and others who you want the models from know what kind of export you expect, and we'll make it for you. Yeah?
great, thank you very much.
Yeah, send me a PM and I'll do it for you as well. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna go to the next part of the meeting. I think we're doing okay in time. Let me take a look if Cimmero is here. He wasn't sure if he could make it this time. He was on the road. He's not here. So is there anyone else who would like to say something about the Eclipse? Maybe Simon?
I don't see how now, how it's possible to open 3 hatches and have piping and all the systems in this small volume.
I can tell you. I can directly tell you. So that's nice. That's a good one. First of all, you're not going to open 3 pipes at the same time, 3 hatches at the same time, because either you have like a direct elongated connection, and that's one, and then the side panels can be used for radiators or whatever. That's fine. Or you're going to have the side ones. If you look at the last image I sent, you see the different options. So you're not going to have 3 cans on all 3 of those UBM. It's either the middle one or the 2 side ones. So that helps, I hope, right?
Not really, to be honest, because there is no space 2 by 2. No, Koen. It's like there's 5 UBMs. It's helping a little, but what I see from what I see is that combination of Eclipse and hatch and all the piping.
So what is the problem with the hatch itself? Because the hatch we could stow away somewhere nearby, right?
It's the point that you say somewhere, but this somewhere is, as for today, the curvature of the can does not and hatches flat. And
okay, I'm gonna share my screen and help you out here because I think it's not a big problem. Yeah, who wants to talk? Go ahead, open your mic. Someone was talking, I think. Not? Oh, sorry, I thought someone was talking. Okay, give me a second. If you see my screen share, can you see that, Simon?
Yeah, I can see. I've been opening this model and.
Okay, but give me 1 second. I'll try and explain. So we're gonna go and remove the hatch for a second, and here, for example, this would be the end cap with the openings, and you have the UBM and the hatch specifically, and you see that when you remove the end cap, and now I'm keeping the complete center corridor of over 2 meters, I keep that open right now. And now you see how incredibly big that is. There's nothing there, it's just passageway, right?
Okay.
And these 2 sides are completely used for Eclipse at this time.
All right. Okay.
That should work, right?
Why I didn't understood your model because there is no racks and it was.
Yeah, that's true. So just to be clear, here on this whole right side and this whole left side, there can be toilets, there can be racks, there can be whatever. All the piping can go there. Also vertically, all the way down. All of that can happen in that space. So it's all technical space at this time. It's really a pretty large space now because of the 2 removed hatches. So it should work, but we can talk after the meeting if there's any questions remaining. Okay, let's keep it at that for now. We're going to go to the next part of the meeting agenda, which is the universal berthing mechanism, which is again Simon. So go ahead. Maybe I'll stop sharing my screen so you can do that.
Okay. First of all, I made today I made kind of a big update of the description in the main document, and I'm still fighting with the Word because Google Doc is not a very good one. Okay, so during this week, at the end of the previous week, I sent to the guys Deadman Muffin and Sparsec. They declared that they can make a calculation but they went silent. I made a task for the structural tension, for the structural calculations. If the UBM is really working, if this is enough steel or maybe too much steel, and how does it compare, how does it resist the whole station being moved? And still I have no answers except that the hatch was calculated and it's obviously too thick and maybe too heavy. This was the first major issue. The second major issue is uh, maybe as a result of the technical of those calculations is the movement joint, which is there are 16 movement joints, which I'm not sure if they can, because now they are designed only for the vertical movement between the main saddle of the orbital can main saddle and the UBM itself. And now it can move only up and down due to, because I wanted to compensate the thermal expansion. But if it's required, maybe it should be moving in 3 dimensions. But this would require much more complicated sealing. And if anyone wants to see that the whole list of it's updated now, the whole list of technical issues that needs to be at least looked into. There are I've already added one more thing while modeling this big strange model that you may find on Google Drive. Is that you have all the pipes, especially cooling, needs to, if I have a movable UBM, they have to have a flex connection, and I have completely no idea now. Maybe guys can help, are more engineers than me. What is the possibility to make pressurized flexible connection? I believe that O-ring can be a solution, but it will take more space than I have anticipated. I have anticipated only 500 millimeters for the great big valve and the movable joint. And this is for cooling, which is for me the hardest one. And the rest is much more flexible. And and this is the update for last 2 weeks. I was working on shape. You can find my model in the meeting text. Pretty much, it's that's it.
So 2 comments, Simon. The one on flexible piping. Now, I don't think that's such a big issue. I mean, there's a lot of, you get a lot of plumbing at the moment that allows certain amount of movement joints for, I mean, on mechanical stuff for heating and cooling in buildings, where just on expansion, there's often joints that allow for a certain amount of flexibility. And I've actually seen a couple of them. They're You've got a variety of things with like fiber, which are overwrapped with stainless steel wires and things to keep the things in. But I also don't think we're running such high pressures. So for our heating and coolant lines, we are running water actually at a fair pressure, but it's not high. It's maybe 1 or 2 bar because we don't need to run high pressures. We should actually get someone that's better.
Everything what is high pressure for me and is inside the station is a kind of a safety issue.
Yeah,
I don't like high pressures inside the station.
Yeah, so for other people to know as well, we're using water for our coolant fluid because if there is a leak, you don't want a toxic gas to release inside the human space. So water is fine.
Yeah, but in fact, cooling now is, as per Marsden Wright advice, it is pipe in pipe. It's double skinned now.
Oh no, hang on. That was on the basis that it was ammonia.
Yeah.
Wanted
Yeah.
to make sure that you couldn't get out.
Yeah.
Now, what you can see here is a diameter 180 with a actual diameter for the ammonia is 140. So I have like 1.5, 2 centimeters for the pipes for the second scheme, including of course the thickness of the pipes. But what I was thinking and I was designing for is this the vacuum inside. So if you have a leak of ammonia, it's not directly coming into the space.
But yeah, so we're not going to do, and I've spoken to Sam about this a bit as well, and NDR, I know you've got more experience in this, but I think we've stepped away from using ammonia. It simplifies things by using liquid water. Because if we then want to, we have the option of then upgrading our coolant system. And by upgrading the coolant system is you still have water flowing, but the radiator itself on the outside of the station, there's an interface between the water and an ammonia system. So there's an interface, there's no change, but there's
A heat exchanger.
heat exchanger, and that then you can run ammonia through those at higher pressure, but it's completely separate. So if there's something that happens, it explodes or whatever, it happens on the outside of the station, and it doesn't cause a hazardous issue.
I understood Sam was saying that the water is not that is way less effective.
It's less effective. Water is actually amazing. If you look at water's ability to transport heat, it's really, really good. The problem with water is it boils, and as soon as it reaches above 100 degrees Celsius, obviously that causes issues, and it freezes below a certain temperature. So as long as you can keep water within that range, it'll be fine. But ammonia, and there are some other exotic fluids that I've seen. I know on the ISS they use something else, not ammonia. They use something completely different, which is a lot more, got much better ability to transport heat. MDR, I think you're a lot better in this field than I am, and I think other people in this chat might be as well.
You can stop stuff boiling by increasing the pressure inside. You can also increase the range of freezing and boiling by having an additive, a glycol or an alcohol. But
In fact, what is normally used on Earth is I think it's ethyl. It's kind of an alcohol. I don't remember. It's ethyl, something like that. Alcohol.
ethylene.
Yeah.
Alcohol's one. Ethylene glycol is the more common one that's used.
Glycol is I believe it's also toxic.
Yeah.
Well, there's three glycols: ethylene glycol, methylene glycol, and tributyl
I believe
glycol. And the last one is not toxic.
Yeah, so let me just summarize instead of, because otherwise we'll also talk too long about it. Let's try and keep the message, the meeting in time for once, and which is my task, I hope. And that is that we have two separate types of coolant fluids. The interior cooling fluids are less effective, meaning we will probably need maybe, for example, different interior tubings and stuff like that. To accommodate, to get enough heat exchanging inside and outside. But even though it's less effective, it is safer, which means that we don't need to have the radiator fluid outside of the station if it would be ammonia all the way, for instance. So that's the good thing. Yeah, go ahead, Marston Wright.
I'm sorry, for Simon, the red pipes there are for transporting the between one and the next one down?
They are options to transfer.
Or I was going to say, is the other option, they are the cooling, in other words, you want heat transfer from can into those pipes. In other words, are you trying to protect the pipes, or you actually expose the pipes, work against the environment within the can? Because for me, they're a problem because it messes with my size of large.
Yeah, definitely. That's why I was thinking a large is in fact, this is a question. Of course, they will have to go around. This is just a, let's say, this is a typical can without large.
So
And you have many options to choose from about the transfer. If you start from the diagonal UBM and you go to another diagonal UBM, or you have just two UBMs on the top, and then you can choose the tracing one on one side, on the other side. It's just like just a first glance on that.
I think it's a good idea to not look too much into those red pipes configuration at the moment, because like this is one configuration, but it's very non-ideal. This like the one thing I would do is you cluster the pipes together in groups of 4, because that actually, if you look at the spacing between the pipes, so you've got these pairs of pipes, and you've got that gap between them, and the gap between them is mostly useless. So it's really hard to actually fill it. So,
It was just to give you the
Yeah.
plan of the size of the mass of the pipes.
Yeah.
That it is not something thin that you can just imaginally drive through and forget about them.
Yeah.
No, they are really heavy.
Yeah, but MDR, I think also to solve your worries is what you can also do is you can just run the pipes straight through the center, so they don't go at all to the sides, and then you create a central core through the
That's
middle.
what I was hoping.
Yeah, and then they go straight through the middle without actually flaring out at all.
Well,
Let's
I
say
was also
on
I was also wondering. You don't know how many of those UBMs are being connected, correct?
Yeah,
In fact, Sam was calculating that 2 pipes, then I can drive 4 cans with just 2 pipes.
yeah.
What you see is the possibility of connections. Of course, there are many more, but just to give a glance how they can. I wanted
Okay,
to
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
myself.
No.
yeah. I'm
What I
gonna
was,
draw a conclusion. Otherwise, we cannot
I'm
finish the
sorry.
conversation.
I'm sorry,
So,
Koen. Can I add something, please?
yeah, quickly, please.
Okay. What I would have done is I would have had a ring main at both ends, because you don't know if there's 1, 2, or 3 UBMs connected, and then from the ring main connect from one side to the other. And
Yeah.
that way, it doesn't matter which of the UBMs is connected, the water goes to the ring main. And then from the ring main, you got equal distribution.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's good that you said that, because that's actually what I wanted to say. But that's a good point. You don't need each separate UBM to go all the way to the other end cap. You only need one set or maybe 2 sets of piping. And if you create a ring main, as MDR said, that can be solved as well. So even though the piping is very large, indeed, you don't need that many. That's just a detail, but we'll talk about that at a later moment.
The
I'm gonna go
pipes would
now.
be the pipes would be wasted if it goes to a
Yeah.
UBM that's connected.
Okay,
Indeed.
guys. Okay, guys. This is. But I have a global message. I do ask for help in calculations about this. What I did about the technical, about the structural task, because guys went silent. They went for exams, I believe. Is there any other possibility that somebody can help me with structural calculations? Uh, as for today, I can provide AutoCAD model, full of that, a full station model. But on shape is a kind of problem for me now, because I have just the basic model. But I can try to model the whole station, the whole task on shape. But I'm just architect. I'm not capable to make a proper calculation.
So Simon, there are 2
Still
options.
ask for help.
One is Gary, who is in this meeting, is gonna help you out, and he's gonna do the direct calculation, and he's gonna help because he's a structural engineer. That's option 1. Option 2 is that I just see that Muffin Man is, I think, even online right now, and I'll just have a private conversation with him and ask him if he can.
He will be ready after Wednesday, but then he went silent.
Yeah, but but then we'll try and talk to him. People have their own life. We're a volunteer project. It's understandable, but I'll try and help you make sure that the people who can do this work start doing it, because I agree that the structural engineering is an important aspect. So just before we continue, I hope Gary is listening. Is this something that you could help us with, Gary Ape? Let's see if he is listening.
In fact,
He's not listening. His headphones are off. Okay.
in fact, it's not only UBM. It's the CAN itself.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, that's true. I understand.
That's even more important than the UBM.
But I also want to finish this meeting within 10 minutes. So what I'm telling you, Simon, is that I will help you with finding people who can help you with this, or the people who have said they would help, and otherwise other people. We're going to work on that together, and we'll talk about that after this meeting shortly. Okay? Thank you. But it's good that you raised the concern, because it's important indeed. We're going to go to the large now. So MDR, I hope that you can take us through the development of that, or what needs to be done from now on. March done right? Can you? Yeah, go ahead.
I was turning my fan off so you guys complain less. It's now nearly 3 a.m. here, so it's a bit cooler. I'm talking to you from the future. I'm talking to you from Sunday. Anyway, sorry. Actually, as far as modelling is concerned, we haven't done very much this week. We have talked about the mechanisms for speeding up and slowing down and energy calculations in the normal CAN chat. And separately, I've also been discussing with Hyperphysics over the videos, but I need to have a discussion with Danny just to make sure that we go in the same direction instead of in a different direction. So the chat for large has been relatively busy this week.
Yeah. So two things that I can help with is that I think about a week ago I sent a message to one of those researchers that I also sent you that email that I sent. I'm going to try and call that university lab, and I'm also going to try and get in contact with the people from the Tom Scott video. Kale Overlord, you're opening your mic. Go ahead. You want to help with this?
I didn't notice that my mic opened. I think my earbuds caught on there. That's all good.
Okay. Well, I actually might request your help, Kale Overlord, sometime this week, because I'm in Europe and I'm not really sure how I can call for free to two universities in the US that I was thinking about. So I will be sending you a message, so you might during business hours be able to call to those people. If you would be able to help with that, that would be great. So that's actually a question to you. Is that a possibility for you? Are you willing to maybe just take a quick call to those university departments to ask if they might be interested in our project? Because there are two. Yeah, go ahead.
It might be a little rough just on the schedule I have, just because working and whatnot, so it might be a little bit difficult to actually get some time in to do something like that. But because I'm on like kind of a work week schedule with everybody else here, so.
I understand. Okay, well, I'll try and ask someone else. Maybe actually Alex would be a good, because he's also in the US, but I'll send him a message afterwards about this as well. And the other thing I wanted to say, so Deck Engineer, you just said during the visuals part of this meeting, you said that you created an on-chip shape model of the basics of large, right? Is that correct, or did I misunderstood that? Yeah, that's great. So what I would like to ask you is if you can share the link to that model on the large channel, even though it's probably not perfect. My model is also very crappy, so don't worry about that. And why I'm asking you this is because I should not be modeling everything. Actually, I should be more managing instead of modeling. And that means that if at all possible, it would be great if that on-shape model would actually be our new model to work on together with the whole team. Is that a possibility, you think?
Yeah, yeah. I'll do that like tomorrow once I get to it.
Yes, I understand. Okay, let's talk about that tomorrow, deck engineer. But great to know that this is a possibility. And MDR, that means that you're not depending on me anymore for the SketchUp modeling, which is not great anyway, but what's just for the basic idea. So thank you, deck engineer, and I think that we might be able to make quicker progress even with the animations as well if we use that on-shape model as well. And it's also good for Sean for the software testing. So I think it's a win-win for everyone. MDR, is there anything else you would like to say about large? Can we go to the last point on the agenda?
No, I'm okay at the moment. A lot of stuff has happened in the chat through the week. That was the more important thing. Obviously, we have to have our goal for the 60-second clip. I put a link in the. I put a link in, didn't I?
I'm not sure what kind of link you mean.
A link to where the thing is, the video discussion. Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay, so if Orest has put it in the document, in the notes, did you do that, Orest?
I did not have the link myself, so if you could just place that one in the chat right now, I will pick it up and I'll drop it in here.
It is in the chat. It's
yeah, but
just,
can you paste it again? Just that's easier. That would be great, Marsden, right? Thank you. Or just link to the chat that you mean. Then it's clear for everyone. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. So also one detail is that the large has a specific meeting on this upcoming Tuesday, Tuesday, May the 18th, 2 p.m. UTC for 1 hour. So anyone who's interested in joining that, or who's interested in the project or is working on 3D models, stuff like that, I'm going to paste the link to that in the meeting schedule at this moment in the meeting room chat. Maybe Orest can put it in the notes as well. And that meeting is this Tuesday, the 18th. A lot of people seem to be coming, but anyone is very welcome to join and just take a look at where we are at. And maybe Deck Engineer can then use his 3D model to keep the discussion going. Okay, I really want to stop the meeting in 4 minutes because that will be like almost the first meeting ever that finishes in time. So let's try and do that. We're going to go to the schedule again, to the agenda, and then I think we should not be talking about interior design because Design Freedom is not here right now. I'll ask him to be there next time. But I would like to ask anyone who has anything that they would like to discuss in the final part of this meeting. Is there anyone who wants to ask or say something before we end the meeting? Gary, go ahead. I don't know for sure if that's working actually. Gary, I don't know if you can, if you are talking, we cannot hear you, but at least you can hear us, it seems.
Can you hear us, Jerry?
Seems not. Well, he has 2 minutes and 30 seconds because I'm gonna end the meeting then, for sure. Anyone else who would like to say something or ask something before we end the meeting? Otherwise, we'll talk in the general meeting in 2 weeks. We'll have a large meeting in 3 days. And then next week we'll have a visuals, Orbital Can Station visuals meeting, which is great. I would also say that maybe it would be interesting for Simon, and I'll talk to you about that after this meeting, to have a meeting about the universal berthing mechanism with all the people.
Hi, can you hear me?
Involved. Oh no, there he is. Hey Gary, go ahead.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys.
You got 1 minute. You got 1 minute. Go ahead.
Okay. This is a general comment. I'm absolutely mind blown about how people come together from different parts of the world and create things out of nothing better than Boeing and other corporations can. It's very, very pleasant to see. And I just want to say that in parallel to this, I'm busy making sure that we get funding organized, because Sean asked me quite pointedly 2 weeks ago, like, who's going to pay? And I put my lips on the line. or private parts to somebody. I said, I will pay. And Sean, I'm on my way to do that. Okay. We'll have to sort out the details. You know, what do we get in return? How do you become one bigger, happier family, etc. But I don't want to change the nature of Nexus Aurora at all. I want us to use the minds and the people in there to share a common dream to actually become a multi-planetary society and things like that. I very much agree with long-term aims. But at the same time, unless we can make sure that people get together in Dubai, have fun, have some parties in a beach house, etc., actually connect on multiple levels. We've got to have this, like, you know, new forms of be there or be me and technology set up, etc. It ain't going to work. So we're just going to work on parallel fronts. But the way you guys are going ahead and the confidence knowing this will happen is wonderful to see.
That's great.
So thank you.
Thank you, Gary, and thank you for actually keeping it short. That's great because we have 30 seconds before I really will end
Yay.
this meeting. So
Okay.
that's really, I'm really proud. This is the proudest moment in my time at Nexus Aurora. I finished the meeting within the 2-hour time frame that it was set to be. Let it be noted in the notes, Orest. It's very
Noted.
important. So we are going to end this meeting in 9 seconds, just in time. Thank you guys for being here. If anyone wants to stick around, that's fine. But the official meeting is over now.
And I'm officially
Bye-bye.
stopping.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
I'm stopping the recording. It's finished when the recording's done. We are.
Oh, yay, we did it.
Actually, our recording's at 1 hour 50 minutes.
Yeah, so it's even better. But we said it would be 7 to 9 p.m. UTC. No, 5 to 7, I guess,
Yeah.
UTC. And that's exactly now. So.